A white man picked me up, and I'm heading home in a cab. Bye. This was a phone call made by Brenda Crockett, a 10-year-old girl who was abducted by a mysterious man. Little did people know that she wasn't alone. She was third in the long list of a monster's victims. America has seen some of the worst serial killers in the 20th century, and tonight, we're talking about Washington, D.C.'s first serial killer, the Freeway Phantom. It's May 1971. People are out on the streets, protesting against the U.S.-Vietnam War. If the government doesn't stop the war, we'll stop the government. Chants like this one fill the air in Washington. While they protest the bloodshed taking place in East Asia, they have no clue an evil is about to haunt them for the coming months. On the evening of April 25, 1971, 13-year-old Carol Spinks was sent by her older sister to pick up groceries at a 7-Eleven, just half a mile from her southeast D.C. home, across the border into Maryland. It was supposed to be a quick trip, but on her way back, Carol never made it home. She had been abducted. When her mother, Allentine Van Thompson Reeves, called the police, they gave her a standard answer. An answer nobody likes to hear. She probably ran away. Reeves didn't believe the police. Carol had always been close to her family. Reeves was a single mother to 8 kids, and they all knew Carol would never run away. When she realized that the police were of no help, Reeves formed a search party with her friends and neighbors to look for Carol. Sadly, it didn't yield any results. Carol's siblings suspected that something was wrong. Very wrong. 6 days later, on May 1st, at 2:46 p.m., her body was discovered behind St. Elizabeth's Hospital on a grassy embankment beside the northbound lanes of I-295, less than 1,500 feet from Suitland Parkway. The discovery confirmed every parent's nightmare. Carol had been taken and brutally silenced. Investigation revealed some horrifying details. Carol was SA'd. There was clear evidence of strangulation. They found undigested food in her stomach, an indication that Carol might have been alive for most of the 6-day period she was missing. It was highly probable that the killer fed her before committing his heinous acts. One major thing police noted was the missing shoes. It was possible that the killer took her shoes as trophies. The D.C. Metro Police wanted to chase every lead in Carol Spinks' case, but her murder came at the worst possible moment. Washington, D.C. was in chaos. Anti-war protests had flooded the streets, and the city was overwhelmed. Thousands were arrested, so many that makeshift camps had to be built just to hold the prisoners. Every available officer was pulled into crowd control, including homicide detectives. Retired Detective Romaine Jenkins later recalled what happened when she tried to pursue Carol's case. She told her commander she was heading out to follow up on the murder of the little girl found in Southeast. His response was chillingly bureaucratic. No, the whole department is on prisoner alert. That includes the homicide squad. And just like that, Carol's case, already desperate, was left to languish in the shadows of a city consumed by protest. Around 2 months after the abduction of Carol Spinks, another teenage girl of Southeast D.C. went missing. Darlenia Johnson, a 16-year-old girl from the same neighborhood as Spinks, never returned from her summer job at Oxon Hill Recreation Center since she left on July 8. When 16-year-old Darlenia Johnson vanished, her mother Helen wasted no time filing a missing persons report. But unlike in the Spinks case, what followed was far more sinister. For 2 agonizing weeks, Helen's phone would ring. Each time, there was no voice, only the sound of heavy breathing on the other end. Then came the final call. This time, the silence broke. A man's voice coldly whispered, "I killed your daughter." And with that, he hung up. Helen told police about the disturbing phone calls, but in 1971, there was no way to trace. Then, on July 19th, an officer made a grim discovery along I-295. Lying by the roadside was the body of a young girl, badly decomposed under the brutal July sun. She had been there for nearly 2 weeks, her face unrecognizable. It was the clothing that confirmed the truth. The victim was Darlenia Johnson. One witness reported having seen Johnson in an old black car, driven by an African-American male, shortly after her abduction. Her advanced state of decomposition left investigators unable to determine the cause of death. But one detail made their suspicions undeniable. Darlenia's body was found just 15 feet from where Carol Spinks had been discovered 2 months earlier. For the police, this was no coincidence. A predator was hunting children in Washington, D.C. before the people of Washington, D.C. could recover from the brutal killings of Carol Spinks and Darlenia Johnson. Another young girl went missing. This time, it happened way sooner than expected. On the evening of July 27th, 10-year-old Brenda Crockett was sent by her mother on a quick trip to the grocery store, just a block and a half from home. But when darkness fell and Brenda hadn't returned, her mother grew anxious and set out to look for her, leaving Brenda's 7-year-old sister Bertha at home with their stepfather. Not long after, the phone rang. Little Bertha picked it up. On the other end was her missing sister, Brenda. Her voice was trembling. "A white man picked me up, and I'm heading home in a cab," she told her little sister. She added that she thought she was in Virginia, then quickly said, "Bye," before hanging up. Moments later, the phone rang again. This time, her stepfather answered. It was Brenda once more, repeating the same strange story. But this time she asked, "Did my mother see me?" and revealed she was inside a house with a white man. Her stepfather urged her to put the man on the line. In the background, heavy footsteps echoed. Then Brenda's final words came, "I'll see you," and the call went dead. When Brenda's mother returned home and heard all this, she called the police immediately. The next morning, Bertha woke up to a terrifying scream. Her mother had just found out that Brenda had been found. A hitchhiker had found the lifeless body of Brenda Crockett near U.S. Route 50 around the Baltimore-Washington Parkway in Prince George's County, Maryland. She was sexually assaulted and murdered. Also, there was a scarf knotted around her neck. Investigators later concluded that Brenda had likely been forced to make those phone calls by her killer, who fed her false information, deliberately misleading her family and buying himself precious time to commit the crime. After 3 consecutive murders within 3 months, news channels began picking up the story. Reporters started visiting Spinks's and Brenda's neighborhoods, coming up with their own theories. Finally, the cases were getting public attention, and the victims' families hoped that it might lead to some fruitful information. Even though there was a lot of public awareness regarding the killings, it didn't stop the Freeway Phantom. It was October 1st, 1971. 12-year-old Nenomoshia Yates was returning home from a Safeway store around 7 p.m. But she got there. She was kidnapped, assaulted, and strangled, just like the other 3 victims. This time, however, her body was found rather quickly. Within 3 hours of her abduction, the poor girl's body was found near Pennsylvania Avenue in Prince George's County, Maryland. Just like the last 3 cases, her shoes were missing and there were green fibers on her clothes. According to a witness, Yates had entered a blue Volkswagen. Witnesses had even seen her at the Safeway store purchasing the items. Her home was just a block away. Investigators hoped that this information would help them find Yates' killer, but it was of no avail. As news of a 4th young girl abducted and murdered spread, panic gripped Southeast Washington, D.C. The neighborhood felt like it was all connected. It had to be, recalled Evander Spinks Belk, brother of the first victim. Fear soon turned into anger. Families demanded answers, and frustration with the police mounted. Headlines screamed for action, questioning why the murders continued unchecked. Local reporters began to connect the dots, suggesting that a single predator was responsible. The press pointed to I-295, the common thread. Every body had been discovered near the highway, leading the daily news to give the killer a name, the Freeway Phantom. But not everyone was convinced. Police were hesitant to declare the murders linked, and with limited forensic technology available at the time, their investigation stalled. As panic in the district deepened, the FBI finally stepped in, forming a joint task force with DC police to share forensic expertise and begin treating the killings as the work of a serial predator. One piece of evidence changed their minds. During re-examination of evidence, police and the FBI found hairs belonging to one individual in the underwear of 3 victims. These hairs didn't belong to them. This single piece of evidence made everything fall in one place. Now the authorities knew that all 4 of these murders were committed by one male. People were still talking about the 4 murders when the killer struck again. On November 15, 1971, 18-year-old Brenda Woodard had boarded a city bus to reach home after having dinner with a friend. She never got home. Woodard was abducted, SA'd, and brutally murdered. There were multiple stab wounds on her body and clear signs of strangulation. A police officer had found Woodard's body in a grassy area near Prince George's County Hospital. However, the killer had left her shoes and placed a coat on her chest. Police found a note in one of its pockets, which read, "This is tantamount to my insensitivity. Sick to people, especially ally women. I will admit the others. When you catch me if you can. Freeway Phantom." Investigators analyzed the writing. The note was written on paper cut from the victim's school notebook. It was written by Brenda herself. Investigators speculate that the killer had dictated the message to Woodard. Her writing also indicated that she might have known the killer. "I was scared for me and every other little girl after that," recalled Brenda Crockett's sister, Bertha. The fear was shared across the entire community. Everybody was phoning in suspects to the police department, remembered retired Detective Romaine Jenkins. "We were looking at priests, police officers, doctors. Every male you could think of ended up being a suspect at one time." And then, just as the investigation seemed to gain momentum, the murders suddenly stopped. Some believed it was the FBI's involvement. Others thought the relentless media attention may have spooked the killer. Whatever the reason, the Freeway Phantom vanished into silence, leaving only questions, and a city haunted by the fear he left behind. The peace didn't last forever. Almost a year after the killing of Brenda Woodard, the Freeway Phantom struck again. On September 5, 1972, 17-year-old Diane Williams was going to her boyfriend's house after cooking dinner for her family. The Ballou High School senior was last seen boarding a bus at 11:20 p.m. near her boyfriend's house. People found Diane's body a few hours later near I-295, just south of the district line. Like the previous cases, her shoes were missing and there were signs of strangulation. But she was not as detectives scoured for connections to known predators. In 1974, a Virginia prison inmate and a convicted predator named Morris Warren claimed he knew the identity of the Freeway Phantom. The FBI even took him on ride-alongs, testing his knowledge of the crime scenes. But his stories fell apart under scrutiny. Letters he wrote from prison revealed the truth. He was lying, hoping to bargain his way to freedom. With no suspects and no solid leads, the investigation lost momentum. Other cases took priority, and the Freeway Phantom murders began to fade into obscurity. The task force dissolved, but the memories of those girls never left the men and women who worked the case. Retired FBI agent Barry Calvert later reflected, "You never lost interest in this case. What you had seen, and what you had learned about the deaths of these girls, was so upsetting. I would try and make sense of it. What had happened to that person to make him hate so much that the only way to relieve it was to watch a little girl die in front of him. That was very, very hard for me to live with." The lack of progress scarred not only the victims' families, but the reputation of DC's police force itself. Then, in 1987, there was a glimmer of hope. Detective Romaine Jenkins was promoted to sergeant, and for the first time, she could make the Freeway Phantom investigation a top priority. She began by searching for old case files and forensic evidence, but what she uncovered was devastating. In a shocking breach of protocol, detectives had destroyed critical forensic evidence, misplaced files, and lost materials in storage. "The police came to our house and took all my sister's clothes, her pictures, everything," recalled Evander Spinks Belt. "And now, it's gone." Detectives of the past had assumed the case would never be solved. To Sergeant Jenkins, it was unforgivable. Enraged but determined, she rebuilt the investigation piece by piece, reconstructing files with the help of the FBI and surviving detectives. But the most crucial evidence, the very items that could have identified the Freeway Phantom, was lost forever. There were a few people suspected to be the Freeway Phantom. The biggest suspect was Robert Askins. In March of 1977, 58-year-old computer technician Robert Elwood Skins was charged with abducting and sexually assaulting a 24-year-old woman inside his Washington, D.C. home. When homicide detective Lloyd Davis questioned him, he uncovered a disturbing past. Skins had been charged with murder on several previous occasions. On December 28, 1938, at just 19 years old, Skins laced whiskey with cyanide and served it to 5 sex workers at a brothel. One woman, 31-year-old Ruth M.C. Donald, died. Only 2 days later, Skins struck again, stabbing 26-year-old Elizabeth Johnson to death at the same location. When arrested, he told police he was a woman hater. Placed under psychiatric observation, Skins violently lashed out, breaking free from restraints and attacking 3 hospital orderlies with a chair before being subdued. During trial, it was revealed that he had even served as a police informant, helping target sex workers for arrest. In April 1939, he was declared criminally insane and committed to St. Elizabeth's Hospital. Released in 1952, Skins wasted no time. Just 5 months later, he strangled 42-year-old Laura Cook. By 1954, he had been indicted, accused in several other assaults, and even retried for the 1938 cyanide murder after it was determined he had been sane all along. Convicted of second-degree murder, he received 20 years to life. That conviction, however, was overturned in 1958. Nearly 2 decades later, after the 1978 assault charge, investigators searched his home for links to the Freeway Phantom killings. In his desk drawer, they uncovered court documents in which a judge had used the word tantamount. That same unusual word had appeared in the taunting note left with victim Brenda Woodard. Colleagues at the National Science Foundation, where Skins worked, told detectives that tantamount was one of his favorite words. A warrant was issued, and police even dug up his backyard in search of evidence. But nothing physical ever tied him to the Freeway Phantom murders. Robert Elwood Skins, brilliant, violent, and dangerous, remained a suspect, but never faced charges for the crimes that haunted Washington, D.C. Another group of suspects were Edward Selman and Tommy Simmons, 2 ex-cops who were arrested for the killing of 14-year-old Angela Denise Barnes. Initially, Barnes was suspected to be a victim of the Freeway Phantom. However, authorities later determined that it was not a serial killing case. Apart from these 3, authorities investigated dozens of suspects, hoping to catch the serial killer. Sergeant Jenkins tried her best, but the lack of evidence and technology made it extremely difficult to find the culprit. Sergeant Romaine Jenkins retired in 1994, disheartened that she could never fit all the pieces together to solve the mystery of the Freeway Phantom. From then on, the only hope was that someone, somewhere, would come forward with new information. The accidental destruction of evidence left the police department deeply embarrassed. In response, the D.C. City Council mandated that all evidence in unsolved homicide cases must be preserved for at least 65 years, a policy born from tragedy, too late to help the Phantom's victims. Diane Williams would be the 6th and final known murder attributed to the Freeway Phantom, but his shadow never lifted. The terror he unleashed lived on through the families he shattered. Carol Spinks' mother, Alantine, passed away in 1992, never seeing justice for her daughter. And for the surviving families, the pain never faded. "You never forget. There is no closure," said Diane's sister, Patricia Williams. "Whoever did it has gotten away. They may be living somewhere else, doing it again." The Freeway Phantom vanished without a trace. And half a century later, the streets of Washington, D.C. are still haunted by the ghost of a predator who was never caught. Thanks for watching this video. What do you think of the Freeway Phantom? Share your theories and opinions in the comments section. Please like and share this video, and if you want to watch similar crime documentaries, hit the subscribe button. Until next time.